Welcome back to Stop the Takes. I'm Dakota, that is Austin, and today we are breaking down the Anthony Richardson versus Daniel Jones Colts quarterback competition, the Battle of Mid, as some are calling it. Austin,
That is
um,
that is what I just called it before we started recording.
yeah, the name is sticking. We're going to break down kind of what the offseason has looked like so far. I mean, bringing Daniel Jones into into the building in Indianapolis. Um, and what the outlook looks like for Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, who we think is going to win the job, and then what it could mean for the Colts going forward. So, with that in mind, Austin, at a high level, kind of what when you all brought in Daniel Jones, obviously being a Colts fan, kind of what was your immediate thoughts and the outlook with that competition with AR?
Yeah, man. So this is kind of like the only we were talking about it before the show, but it's kind of the only legitimate, relevant quarterback battle in the NFL this year. They said they want to bring in competition for AR because I mean, there's obviously question marks with Anthony Richardson at this point in his career. First of which being injury concerns. I think that's right now probably his biggest concern. He hasn't been able to stay healthy whatsoever. There's also leadership concerns and like, does he actually care about football? He's making rap videos in the off season, things of that nature. Stuff you just don't really want to see from your QB1 who's about to lose his job. That's why they brought in Daniel Jones. So when we initially signed Daniel Jones, I'm thinking like, okay, it's a fine signing. It makes sense. It's a good landing spot for Daniel Jones, a guy who is fringe top 32 quarterback. Now that's not sexy. You don't want that if you want to win. Like, you don't want that if you're competing for Super Bowls. You need a top 8 guy to compete for Super Bowls, but he is a fringe top 32 quarterback, starting caliber with the right pieces around him. Perhaps he can maybe be a tier 2 level quarterback. I think that's Daniel Jones' ceiling at this point. And right now in his career, he's looking for that, Darnold, Baker, Geno Smith career arc where he's, his first team really didn't do right by him. He had a terrible situation around him in New York. And he's looking for this like career resurgence with the Colts, which it will be his best situation today. So that is what's kind of interesting about this battle.
Yeah, and we kind of touch on Danny Dimes first with that because we've seen a handful of reclamation projects, right? As we've seen as they're getting pegged with guys like Sam Darnold and Geno Smith, and even Baker, whose last season in Cleveland wasn't great, even though he started off really hot. Where these guys have gone to other teams that are just better situations and done something I think no one expected. I mean, especially Geno's probably the wildest of all of those because 2013 quarterback and was pretty much just written off for like 5 straight years and then comes out of nowhere to just suddenly be a good caliber starting quarterback in the NFL. And to be honest, I would say that Daniel Jones has definitely shown more than Geno ever did prior to that resurgence. So, and you kind of nailed it too that like the situation in New York was just never good. Um, when Dayball came in and they had that playoff run, like statistically and whatnot, he really didn't do much. The team was good. They've had a pretty solid defense most of the time he was there, but the pieces around him were never that good. He had Saquon, but behind a pretty bad offensive line consistently. And the weapons, he went from having Kadarius Toney being his wide receiver one to Kenny Galladay getting signed to that big deal, and I think Golden Tate was his receiver back in like 22 or something. Like the guy's really not had weapons until this past season, and I think that's probably like the concern for me is, and maybe it's because things were just too far gone. But he finally got an elite caliber wide receiver, and it didn't seem to make a ton of difference. But that could be more dependent on the fact that playing behind an offensive line that makes you kind of terrified for your life constantly can wreck you a bit, And I think that's one thing that the Colts definitely have a better situation for is an offensive line. And then to your point, like the situation in general, having Michael Pittman and Josh Downs, and now Tyler Warren at tight end, like the weapons that he has, and Jonathan Taylor coming out of the backfield, which he did have Saquon for most of his time there. I do think that it makes it interesting with him of potentially being, and I think he is a product of the recency bias where it's like, I kind of want to believe he could be the reclamation project, because of what the guys have done recently, and just seeing somebody who definitely had the tools everything coming out of college to succeed in the NFL. But now that he's actually going to a better organization right now, I think is an interesting aspect here.
Yeah, definitely. And I think and it's I don't even really blame him for the like getting Malik Neighbors and not turning around though, just because it's a rookie receiver,
Yeah.
and like you said, the rest of the situation. The biggest problem with New York for years, it wasn't even the weapons; it was the line. I mean, they had bottom three offensive line for his entire career, pretty much. I mean, it was Andrew Thomas and friends, and Andrew Thomas hasn't stayed healthy his entire career and wasn't even good at first. So it was a really poor situation. I do think Dayball's a good coach, but I think Shane Steichen is probably comparable to Dayball as far as a coach is concerned. So overall, the situation will be a lot better in Indianapolis. Now, like you said, we do have the recency bias of, oh man, look at all these former top picks at quarterback who have turned it around. The reality is, before these guys, that didn't happen like ever.
Yeah.
Like it's a very recent trend that we're seeing, and it's hard. Like you kind of touched on this a little bit too. It's like it's hard to even throw Baker into that category because Baker had actually shown elite level play
Yeah.
before like he fell off, and it was a lot of it was injury related. So it's even hard to put him in the category. It's really, you have Geno Smith, and like you said, was very puzzling. I mean, he was a backup for years before he even got another
Yeah.
chance to start. And then Darnold, who, let's be honest, Dakota, Darnold had possibly the best situation in the league, one of the best situations in the league last year, as far as coaching and weapons are concerned. And we haven't seen it 2 years in a row for Darnold. So it's like, it's hard to even put Darnold in that bucket yet. So the likelihood that Daniel Jones has that kind of, resurgence in his career and becomes a good, top 15 quarterback, it's unlikely. Let's be honest. It's unlikely to happen. And again, it's not like the Colts have a good, solid roster. It's not the Vikings level. You're not going to get a Justin Jefferson that's just going to elevate any quarterback he plays with. However, I think it's possible, and I think, frankly, that's the Colts' best chance at this point. AR has so many question marks right now, dude. For one, is he good enough to play? That's the one. I mean, like, is he even good enough? He's shown it like certain games. He's been good in certain games. Now he's barely played any games. Like that's probably the biggest issue. But
Mhm.
it's like, okay, he's got the injury concern, he's got the are you good concern, are you focused, are you like there's you can't even compare it to Josh Allen at this point because for one, Josh Allen's baseline was higher, and for two, Josh Allen had none of those other concerns, Dakota. It was okay, he has the accuracy concern. And Allen fixed that, right? He changed his footwork and he fixed his accuracy, which is unlikely, by the way. That's a very unlikely outcome to happen to begin with. But now you're asking AR, okay, go on the same trajectory as Josh Allen, fix your accuracy, fix your footwork, plus get focused on football, stop making rap videos, plus become a better leader, plus stop getting hurt. Josh Allen never got hurt, dude. He's like on an Iron Man level, career right now where he's started every game and he just never gets hurt despite taking hits. Anthony Richardson, when he takes a hit, dude, every time he gets up limping. That's just who he is. He's just a very injury prone player. So right now it's hard to buy into AR ceiling at this point, despite what a lot of people keep bringing up, which is the inexperience. It's like, okay, he's inexperienced at this point because of himself, his injuries.
Yeah.
And like, it's not like he can necessarily change that, but that's just the reality. I mean, that's why he's inexperienced at this point, 2 years into his NFL career. So yeah, man, to me at this point, if I like from a fan, I'm expecting it to be Daniel Jones. I just am because I've watched AR the last couple of years and I know all the concerns. But as an organization, I still think Ballard and the Colts want AR to pull through and to win this competition because you spent a top 5 pick on him. And Ballard's job it's dependent on this year, man. If he doesn't make the playoffs, he's getting fired. So I think he wants his young quarterback to come through because I just don't think Daniel Jones is going to elevate this team enough for him to keep his job.
And he is dealing with an injury currently. He had an AC joint sprain in the offseason, which there's no like timetable for his return, but I think he's supposed to be back by training camp here in like a few weeks to month. So he's already set himself back in the quarterback competition for the fact he can't even be out there. And to your point, it's fascinating thing because like I think it was in the Check the Mic episode I was listening to the other day of just we always equate like injury proneness. A lot of people want to equate it to like size and stuff, but like it's not part of it. Like he is 6'4", 244, and you're right. Every single time he gets contacted, he looks like he hates his life and something is wrong.
Yep.
Like he grabs his shoulder or something, and then you compare that to like Bryce Young, who's like too small to be playing, and he gets hit like by a semi truck and he's just fine. So it's like the physique isn't as much of a factor as it is just like some innate ability to just not get hurt that you just can't see. And part of it is the way you protect yourself because I think Josh Allen is and Lamar too are both very good at avoiding
Especially
hits.
Lamar.
Yeah, very good at that. Yeah, Josh Allen puts his body on the line a bit more. But Lamar just avoids that contact.
Yep.
AR has the physique of a guy like Josh Allen, where you think he would just be able to take it, and he just can't. So, and then to your point, like, we could come back to the experience and say when he gets some time to play, he's going to get it together. But like, if the injuries don't stop, that literally cannot happen. And then also, it doesn't matter how good he becomes because if he's not out there,
exactly,
it doesn't matter.
And the intangibles. That's my point. Like we both agree that Josh Allen's career arc is just like 1 in a million chance, right? Like this prospect that was extremely raw coming out of college, had like a 50% completion percentage in college. Those guys just don't work out. The fact that Josh Allen did is incredible. But look at all the intangibles Josh Allen had. We just talked about how he can take all these hits and he can be fine. He's a great leader. He actually cares about football. It's like AR has so much more stacked against him at this point. And like that was always the comp, right? Well, he can figure out the accuracy because look, Josh Allen did it, which again was so extremely unlikely. But then you just add all these other things that layer on top of it. It's like, dude, it would just be like, it would be a 1 of 1. Like just the hole he's dug himself in at this point would be a 1 of 1. So if I'm looking at the Colts' success in 2025, it's Daniel Jones, because at the end of the day, the playoff season for the Giants that Daniel Jones led was very fluky. It was extremely fluky, but he's done it with less talent. And he's, like I said, he's a fringe starting level quarterback. And I think those guys can be elevated under the right situations. And who knows if you can like hit on a guy like Tyler Warren, he can become an elite tight end, and Josh Downs can continue to develop. And who knows what you have in AD Mitchell, what he still has, because he showed a lot of potential last year, but he just wasn't on the same page with any quarterback he played with. So point being is I think the situation can elevate Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones at the end of the day, in my opinion, probably give the Colts the best chance to win next year. And I personally don't see AR digging himself out of this hole that he's created.
And it is a unique one too, because I don't know if we've ever seen a quarterback like split the locker room as badly as he did after that situation where he just took himself out. Like it's almost impossible to come back from that. And I think like who knows what the reasoning was, but I mean, Ryan Kelly and Will Fries both leave in free agency, and like you can draw conclusions there of if they wanted to be with a quarterback like that. But like the fans, Pat McAfee, every single person was like, that just doesn't fly. And you can imagine what the locker room felt like based on Pat's perspective of that. And it comes back to your original point too of like, him not being able to get out of his own way, because it also just goes beyond the injury piece of just that, like the leadership and like, honestly, just does he want to play football? Because like, he's clearly an incredibly talented physical specimen, but like, is football the thing he actually cares about? And it doesn't necessarily seem that way so far, and to your point with the Chris Ballard job thing, like, honestly, he may be, I mean, I think they definitely want AR to be the guy, but they may genuinely just be banking on the fact that if they can get 2022 Daniel Jones, this roster's good enough to be a 6th or 7th seed and, make it a wild card team with Daniel Jones at the helm and just save Ballard's job to get another year to figure it all out.
That's very true. And the reason I would say that they're rooting for AR just because the ceiling, and yes, AR's
and the
theoretical ceiling is, and the 4th overall investment, exactly. But the ceiling for AR is theoretically higher than Daniel Jones. And it always was. But the reality is his floor is, I mean, his floor is getting cut and never getting picked up again. I mean, that's the reality, like never playing football again. That's the floor right now for AR. And Daniel Jones floor is, again, it's a solid, I wouldn't say serviceable in the right situation. So I think you're right. I think Daniel Jones could save Chris Ballard's job. So yeah, man, I would say if I had to predict, I think Daniel Jones will end up being the guy overall. I just think he will.
Yeah, and if I had to go, I lean the same way. A part of me wonders. I think it really just depends on the injury for AR. A part of me, just to be slightly different, I kind of want to say AR manages to hold on to it because he gets back for camp. But by week 3 or 4, Daniel Jones is
Well,
out
because
there.
he'll get
Like,
hurt.
let's be
See,
honest.
and you made a good point, and I want to touch on this too. The tapping out of the game. I think that was the moment we'll look back on and be like, okay, AR wasn't gonna work out because it was so unique for a quarterback to
Yeah,
do something like that. And the reaction he got from the current players, the former players, everyone. I mean, it was a visceral reaction from those players in the locker room and former Colts players. It was not a good look, man. And I agree with you. You brought up Ryan Kelly. Ryan Kelly specifically was very pissed about AR tapping out of the game. It's very possible if that doesn't happen, he's still a Colt. Which it's a notable loss. It's the starting center you've had
yeah.
since 2016, and now you're relying on a guy like Tanner Bortolini to come in and play, and that's an unknown. That could now be a weak spot in the offensive line, where center has been a solid spot for the Colts for since Ryan Kelly was a rookie. So yeah, it's not good, man. The AR experiment has not been good. He's shown flashes, right? Like we talked about, or you talked about how he's a physical specimen, and he's shown those flashes. But like I said, is his ceiling theoretically higher? Yes, but he's dug himself such a hole that if he came out of it, it would not be comparable to Josh Allen. It would not be comparable to what Lamar did. It wouldn't be comparable to what Justin Herbert pulled off in the league. It would be one of one. It would be never's happened before. Like, the guy got his head on straight. He randomly stopped getting hurt, which doesn't happen, by the way. And then he became a good, consistent football player. It's just, it would literally be one of one at this point, one in a billion. It's just, if I'm a Colts fan, and I am Colts fans, I wouldn't bank on that. I just would not bank on that.
Yeah, it's time to hang up the AR jerseys and move on. One thing that's I think worth noting too, from Shade Steichen's perspective, is that when they got AR and kind of designed the offense a bit around him in terms of the running ability, Daniel Jones still provides that. He's gotten injured a little bit. He did have like the one major injury. I think it was in 23 that took him out for a good portion of the year. But he does have that running ability. He looks goofy while he does it, but he's actually a really good runner.
He
And
is.
so from an offensive perspective, like that's what I think a part of this is that you don't have to worry about changing the offense much if you put him out there. You can still kind of do the same thing you want to do with AR, but just put Daniel Jones in. So it was kind of perfect signing in that instance too, where you get a guy that you don't have to change the offense for, can plug him in whenever you need to, and he can take over. So because of that, I think it kind of lets Daniel Jones hit the ground running a little bit too in this offense and sets him up to succeed probably earlier.
I agree. That's a really good point. It's one of the reasons I also like the signing. And listen, I'm a very real. I mean, we do this podcast, so you know how I am, a very realistic fan. I know Daniel Jones isn't leading this team to championships, but as far as the solutions you had at quarterback, right? What you actually could realistically do, Daniel Jones was one of the best
Yep.
realistic options, right? The
Yep.
only other one I could really think of is Justin Fields, and I think Justin Fields
Mm.
wanted to go somewhere that was more guaranteed for him to start. He didn't want to do
Yeah.
another Pittsburgh situation where he was, going to have to fight for the job. But from that perspective, I thought the Daniel Jones signing made a ton of sense. Is he the future? It's very unlikely. It is. It's just about as unlikely as they are. But who knows? Like we keep bringing up Darnold and Baker and Geno. You never know. You never know. Maybe it's a Geno situation where he just has turned his career around and he's going to be a good serviceable starter going forward. But again, not something I would bank on, but it's possible.
And that's where it's a little unfortunate, and for yourself being a Colts fan, where like I don't know what we kind of talked about this with the best case scenario for the Colts in the video we just did. Like, I mean, I don't know what it is, right? Like if Daniel for Chris Ballard, it's Daniel Jones. It's obviously AR
Squeaks
making
into
the
the
miraculous
playoffs.
turnaround.
But yeah.
Yeah, but really, it's Daniel Jones plugging into a solid
Yep.
roster, sneaking into the playoffs, and then you save your job. But then, regardless if it's that or you guys go 6-11, like more than likely you're sitting here a year from now still in QB purgatory, and that's the tough part. And I don't know if Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen both. They're just kind of like, if one of these guys don't hit, I don't know what we're doing. But
Yeah.
it's gonna be
They're
interesting to see what
fired.
things look
That's
like
the
a year from
reality.
now. Yeah.
I mean, they're out of a job. So yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, that's really been the case since Andrew Luck randomly retired. I mean,
Yep.
it's been QB purgatory. They've had one chance in the draft. And let's be honest, dude, taking AR in 2023, in hindsight, we'll say, well, that was idiotic. But what were the other options? I mean, Will Levis?
Yeah.
That didn't work. Like
No.
truly the best option, which would have got Chris Ballard fired, by the way. This would have gotten Chris Ballard fired, was tanking in 2023 so that you can draft a quarterback in 2024. But again, we're talking about people, dude. We're talking about a guy who's trying to save his job. If they had 2 top 5 picks in a row, guess what? You're getting fired. You're not going to have another opportunity. So realistically, it's like it was kind of unfortunate from that perspective. And I'm a guy who's kind of tired with the Ballard stuff. Like I think overall he's just done an okay job and not good enough to keep his job, and he's gotten a long leash. But in his defense, like what were the options, right? Like what were you gonna predict Andrew Luck was gonna retire in 2 years and draft Josh Allen instead of Quentin Nelson? That wouldn't have made any sense whatsoever. Like so it's unfortunate. He was kind of put in a hard situation with that, but that's the reality of the league, man. You took your one chance at your top 5 quarterback, and it was a miss.
And you bring up another really good point, which is something we've talked about a lot on this show, is like people just kind of don't think about as much from the people and job perspective, where like Chris Ballard and these guys and Shane Steichen, but mainly Ballard in this situation, he's trying to save his job and doing anything you can to keep it. And that's why you bring in a guy like Daniel Jones, and this entire situation exists because it's just kind of like a long shot. And to your point, he would have gotten fired by tanking essentially to get, Jim Irsay at the time to buy into this idea of let's take a season off basically and rebuild this thing. Like no owner is ever really wanting to do that. And people always talk about it as fans, and we would love to see it too as fans of our team, to just be like, let's just let us suck for a season. But
That's
owners aren't
not
going to
how
let
the
that
league
fly.
works. Yeah.
It doesn't. So it can't happen. And so these guys have to make decisions like this to try to keep things going. Where in reality, the best decision is to just suck this season and try to take a top QB next year. But that's not what's going to happen. And then as fans of the Colts, you get stuck in a situation where you don't know who your quarterback's going to be.
You got Philip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Daniel Jones. The list
Carson
goes
Wentz.
on and on. Carson Wentz. I was trying to forget about that one. It's QB purgatory, man. It's where the Steelers are. It's where the Colts are. It's the tough spot of having a good enough roster to not regularly pick in the top 5 like the Giants. But you can't ever find the guy. You can't ever find the next quarterback, because the only way to find a true franchise quarterback is picking in the top 5.
Yep. And I think most probably agree. Daniel Jones is probably, from a lot of articles I've seen, especially from Colts writers, when I was checking that out, like a lot of people I think are predicting Daniel Jones is going to win this job. And I think one thing, which is what our show is all about, we didn't say, a lot of the talking heads are like, it's all the extreme, right? It's like, oh my, Daniel Jones is definitely winning. He's going to be the next Sam Darnold. He's winning the MVP. Or other side is like AR is going to put it together, no doubt. Or the other option is people are like, they're going 0-17. But nothing is ever as black and white as any of that. Like in reality, it is a lot of gray area, and which is kind of exactly where the Colts have been, right? Picking probably 18th, between 14 and 20 is probably where you'll be, and that's the gray area of this situation. So
it's tough, man. Tough.
It is. So yeah, Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it'll probably be Jones. I mean, one thing we know for sure is Daniel Jones will play because AR will
Oh
get
yeah.
hurt, even if he
Oh
wins the
yeah.
starting job.
You I mean I would bet everything I own on Daniel Jones playing significant football this year, whether they think AR's done enough or not. But I wouldn't be I mean my prediction is he'll win the job outright because I just
Yeah.
like this I just can't get over like how unself-aware are you dropping a rap video when your NFL career is on like hanging on by a thread, man. You can't do that, man. You cannot do that.
Textbook what not to do.
Yes.
There it is. I'm still on Riley Leonard watch personally. I made that
Riley
call during the
Leonard
draft
watch.
videos. I'm still on Riley Leonard. I still think there's a solid chance Riley Leonard could see playing time because of injuries and or one of them having an abysmal game because the other's injured. I mean, if AR's hurt and then week 7 comes around and the Giants or the Colts are getting blasted by the Texans or something, and then they're like, we can't leave
Riley
Danny
Leonard,
Dimes
Tom.
out there and Riley Leonard's in. That's my
Riley Leonard,
prediction still.
Tom. You never know. It could happen.
You don't. Well, yeah, appreciate everybody for watching the vid. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Leave a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win the Colts starting job and what that means for them going forward. But until next time.
Thanks for talking ball with us.